Alright, we survived the 211 research project. Yeah! Alright, so I realized that my approach to this writing was a little off. I actually understand now that annotations are actually helpful when it forces you to pull out specific quotes and different things that are relevant to your research, and it makes you tie it into your argument. Well, the one challenge that I really faced in this project was just coming up with certain topics that I wanted to focus on for each different category. I wanted to come up with something that wasn't just like public knowledge and wasn't just like, oh, duh. But then the topics that I wanted to research, I wanted to make sure that there was actually information to research on, because if it was too off the wall, I would have been like, well, why are you researching that in the first place? Well, again, that's the point of this. A success that I had in this project was just staying focused when I was working and getting the assignment done. A best practice that I had was making a list and or chart. Well, me and Christy Duke, we both kind of sat down and were like, oh hey, what's the quickest way that we could do this? We had two different charts. One was a list of everything needed about like how many books, websites, journals, and news articles that we needed for each different thing. And then the other chart was different categories like the playwright, historical content, critical thought, originally produced, production history, and visual resources for designers. So each time you use a source, you would have to fill it out in both charts. Like, was it a book? Or was it a website? And then was it for your playwright or your production history and whatever one? So you would have to tally it in each one. And then we also had a column that was if it was annotated and if it was revised. So once we annotated it, we checked it off, and then it was revised, and then we were like, check, check. Yeah, so that's my little practice that we used. And then an insider tip that I found really helpful was going into different people's research bibliographies that they used for their books that they used, or their websites or news journals. And I went into their bibliographies and looked at different things that they used and pulled them to use for my project to see if they would match or strengthen my argument. So I took some of their ideas and just threw it all in and said, this actually makes a lot more sense. Obviously, staying organized, but that's so cliche. But I personally recommend doing each type of source in a certain order. Like, do all the books, and then all the websites, and then all the different journals. Don't like flip back and forth like book, journal, website, book. I think it's like more like, oh hey, here are all my books and this is exactly what I need to do. So yeah. Also, if I could go back and redo this project, I probably would find all my sources before I started annotating them, because then I could be like, oh, this book talks about the playwright, and then put them into the different categories instead of just being like, oh, I just did all these annotations, but this doesn't necessarily fit in my chart. So that's like a couple of the main tips that I would necessarily think about or use for your project in the future. Alright guys, see ya!